Talofa. My name is Kelesoma Saloa. I'm a Tuvaluan, now living here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. I migrated from Tuvalu to New Zealand in 2012 because of a number of reasons. And one of those reasons, I'm going to talk about it today. Today, we'll be talking about global warming and Tuvalu. Well, as you all know, that when the world come together and talk about global warming, climate change, and sea level rise, Tuvalu is always in the forefront, talking about its people and the people that remain on these small, tiny atolls. Tuvalu is a small island state that's about 3,000 kilometers north of New Zealand. Tuvaluan area is only about 26 square kilometers, with a population of only about 11,000 people. Funafuti from space. Even though Tuvalu is only 26 square kilometers of land area, it has a marine area of about 1 million square miles. So the ocean used to be a provider of life to our small island nations. But because Tuvalu is so small, Funafuti, the capital of Tuvalu, is also very small. Global warming is becoming a threat to the people of Tuvalu. So what is the relationship between global warming and Tuvalu? Why we always talk about global warming? Well, in 1988, there was a news, and I was walking on the street of Suva when I see a big poster posted on a wall of a shopping mall saying, global warming, say goodbye to Maso Islands, Kiribati, and Tuvalu. Wow, it was news in the late 1980s. Well, our people were worried, saying, wow, is this the end of the world? So our government tried to investigate whether this is real or whether it's only a myth. Year after year, our government will travel out of Tuvalu and to talk about what is global warming. Well, they said global warming is a natural phenomenon that happens before millions of years ago, and now it's coming back again naturally. But they said it's a little bit different nowadays, because what is happening nowadays is people making it faster. People's actions exacerbate the increasing in temperature. So what happens? People create what they call greenhouse gases, and greenhouse gases traps a lot of heat within our atmosphere that causes our atmosphere to warm. So from global warming, there are two major impacts that will impact our Earth or globally. The first, it will change our climate and our weather patterns. Secondly, they said sea level will rise. And these two phenomena, or these two environmental phenomena, will impact, firstly, the small low-lying atolls like Tuvalu. Wow. Sea level rise will cause coastal erosion, loss of land and infrastructure, will cause salt water intrusion, contamination of fresh water, loss of crops, edible crops, and climate change will cause cyclone, and it will intensify destructive cyclones. Climate change will also cause more severe droughts, no water, shortage of water. Climate change caused by increased water temperature. So what's the story about Tuvalu? In the 80s, especially late 80s, we're starting to experience water tides getting higher, especially the time of the year that we call king tides. We experience water coming out of the ground. Some of the places that never been flooded before are now flooded with underground water. And it's not getting any better. It's getting worse and worse. Now, we're starting to experience our crops, especially our edible crops. Because these crops, they are grown in lower parts of islands. These crops, they're grown in pits in the lower section of the islands. And they've been destroyed by saltwater intrusion. We're starting to experience loss of our trees, especially coconut trees that we depend upon. And then places that used to be sandy beaches, beautiful sandy beaches, all the sand has been taken away, only left with solid rocks. And these are the impacts of coastal erosion that is caused by strong tides. During Cyclone Pam 2015, that's when Tuvalu faces a lot of coastal erosion. Just the waves are just too big. The waves are about 10 to 15 meters higher than normal. And the islands were flooded with salt water. People had to save their animals. People had to save their crops from the devastating waves that hit the islands. They said that all the burial grounds were destroyed, and they found all the remains of human bodies just lying all over the place, so they have to rebury them. Most of the islands, most of the houses that are so close to the sea, they've been destroyed by the big waves. Some of the islands, some of the houses were just torn down by strong winds. Well, not only strong cyclones can destroy the islands, even droughts are getting severe and severe, and they're getting more frequent as well. 2011, we witnessed one of the worst droughts that ever hit Tuvalu, and a state of emergency was declared by the government, where people from where governments in New Zealand, Australia, they tried to help our island. And we remember that they brought these desalination units to turn seawater into consumable water. Increasing water temperature also caused problems with our corals. And we know that we've been depending on fisheries for more than 2,000 years. Now, with coral bleaching, killing all the corals that our fish depend upon, is causing another problem with our food security back in the islands. So how long Tuvalu will remain on the surface of the Earth? Well, scientists predict 50 to 100 years more, then Tuvalu will go underwater. But before Tuvalu go underwater, there are problems that there are issues like food security will impact Tuvalu, so the people has to move away from Tuvalu. So what did our government do? Our government, the government of Tuvalu, started with advocacy, going out to the world, telling, asking, voicing our concern to the world to please help Tuvalu, to save Tuvalu, so we can save the world as well. Even though we might be the first to go, we might be the first country to drown under the sea because of sea level rise, but there are other places in the world that will follow suit. We worked on our policy formulation so that we will help reduce what they call greenhouse gas. Reduce the emission of greenhouse gas by reducing the burning of waste, as we usually practice in the past. So we try and manage our waste better compared to the past. We change slowly to using renewable energy or solar energy instead of depending on fuel supply energy in our small islands. We start planting mangroves as a form of defense to our coastline. We start farming what they call foreign sand to help rebuild our islands. And then we try not to harvest species of fishes that will help building islands. Well, this seawall here is not a seawall in Tuvalu, but we hope that we will have money to build strong seawalls like the seawall we see in this slide over here. This seawall is somewhere in the mountains. Tuvalu government is also working on how to reclaim land so people can have more land to build on. Now, when we look at this picture here, the part up here has been reclaimed, but then they are working on reclaiming it further to the north. This is part of the reclaimed land. The government's already building houses on top. Hopefully, the government will plan spacing out of houses so more space will be available for people to use. One of the other projects that's happening back in Tuvalu is growing of corals to help the growth of islands. When we talk about destructive winds, destructive cyclones, Tuvalu is looking into formulating a building code that will spell out how to build a house to withstand wind speed, so a house can withstand the impact of strong winds and even cyclones. Constructing of water tanks or plastic water tanks is one of the projects It's under the National Adaptation Project of Action, and it will help harvest more water in the islands, so there will be enough water during the time of long period of drought. Nowadays, we are losing our groundwater because of saltwater intrusion, and we hope that rainwater will help our water needs back in the islands. One of the other developments that's under construction back in the islands is compost toilet. Compost toilet is a dry sanitation. It doesn't require water. And we all know that, when we use water for toilets, you are wasting at least 10 to 13 liters of water to flush the toilet. So compost toilet is a solution to our water problem back in the island. When it comes to replanting of our crops, because of the impact of saltwater intrusion, we're starting to grow in what they call concrete slabs. We build, and then we put all the compost into the concrete slabs, and then we start growing crops on top of that compost. Even though we try to adapt or mitigate climate change, but there will be continuous problems facing the islands in terms of food security, water shortage, then the impact of cyclones, strong winds, and families will increasingly live in a stressful life. So, what happened when Tuvalu become unlivable? Where do our people get survival from? How can our people survive if there is no way to survive in these islands? Is migration an answer? And where to? Where can we migrate? Is New Zealand a destiny for climate migrants? Maybe. There's a program under the government, between government of New Zealand and the government of Tuvalu, called PAC, Pacific Access Category, where our people will be selected by the government, by the government of New Zealand, to come and work here in New Zealand, getting a visa to come over here and work and live here in New Zealand. And one of the problems is that before you've been given a visa to come and live here in New Zealand, you have to find a job offer. Well, it's a challenge because you can't get a job offer while sitting from Tuvalu, because nobody know you from here. So unless you come here, find out a job offer, and then you can be issued a residency visa back here. But when we talk about migration and the effects of migration, the loss of our sovereignty, the loss of our identity, separated from our families, the loss of our right to a nationality, because it's a human right to seek for a safe place to live. And I think some of us that came here to Aotearoa, that we are seeking a safer place for our children to live. But there are challenges coming over to Aotearoa, to a new beginning in a totally different setting, coming from a subsistence way of life to a commercialized way of living. So, migration where to? Tuvalu to Aotearoa. I remember in 2013 when I Kiribati, I see the possibility for the children that are still remaining in Tuvalu I think that's the end of my presentation, and there's a picture of Tuvaluan children enjoying staying here in Aotearoa, and hopefully they have a better future here, that they move away from a land that's currently sinking slowly. So, and that's the end of the presentation.